Most founders hit a point where the business is technically working, but it still feels like everything depends on them. If they stop pushing, things slow down. If they step away, things stall. And that's usually the moment they realize something important. They're still operating the business instead of leading it. And once you see this, you can't unsee it. I'm Katie, and I spend most of my time helping founders fix the structure underneath their business so they can actually scale. And this operator trap is something I see consistently. Because from the outside, everything can look fine. There's revenue, there's clients, they're moving. But underneath that, the whole thing still depends on you showing up and making it happen. Doesn't matter if you have teams or not. You're the one driving sales, you're the one solving problems, you're the one keeping momentum going. And when that's the case, something subtle starts happening. The business grows, but it never really stabilizes. And if this is landing a little too accurately, subscribe, because the next video, we are going to show you exactly how to fix this. Most founders assume the problem is strategy. They think they're missing the right funnel or the right content approach or a better launch plan. But when I start looking closely at the business that feels fragile, the problem usually isn't strategy. It's the role the founder is playing inside their own company. Because most founders are still operating. What that means in practice is pretty simple. Business moves when you move. If you're selling, things grow. If you're delivering, clients are happy. And you're managing problems, they get solved. But if you slow down, the whole system slows down too, which means revenue is tied to your time, your energy, your availability. And when that's the equation behind the business, there's only so far it can go. Not because you're not capable, but because the structure still requires you to stay in the center of everything. Let me ask you a quick question. If you disappear for a week or 2 weeks, will your business still produce revenue? Or will everything slow down until you come back and start pushing again? Because the answer to that question usually tells you immediately whether you're operating or leading. The reason this happens is actually pretty simple. Most of what people learn online focuses on tactics. How to get clients, how to create offers, how to launch something, how to post content. But very few founders are ever taught how to step back and design the structure underneath all of that activity. So people start stacking tactics on top of tactics on a model that never was built to stabilize. For a while that works. Revenue starts coming in, momentum builds, but eventually founders start feeling a quiet tension because the business still depends on them showing up every day to keep it moving. And when the math becomes clear, eventually the math makes the problem obvious. Because once you strip away everything, a lot of businesses come down to something simple. Revenue is tied to your time, your energy, your availability. And when those are the main drivers of income, the business will always feel fragile. Not broken, just limited by the structure it was built on. That's what I call the operator trap. Not because you're stuck forever, but because the business still requires you to operate constantly. The good news is, once you can see this clearly, the next step becomes obvious. The answer isn't another tactic. The answer is changing the role you play inside your business. Moving from the person who keeps everything running to the person who designs how the business actually works. That's the difference between operating and leading. When founders start making that shift, a few things usually change fast. First, they stop acting like a permanent student. They stop chasing every new tactic that shows up online. Instead, they start asking a simpler question. What does this business actually need right now? Then they start simplifying how clients move through their world. Instead of scattering marketing activities, there's a clear path that consistently turns strangers into clients. They also start paying attention to the numbers, the traffic, the conversion, delivery capacity. Once those numbers become visible, decisions become much calmer. Instead of trying 20 different things at once, founders start focusing on the structural moves that actually change the business. And once the numbers are clear, the emotional roller coaster most founders live on starts fading because the business stops feeling mysterious. You stop reacting and start adjusting. Those shifts are what move someone from operating inside the business to actually leading it. But the part most founders don't realize is that another invisible ceiling sitting right behind the operator trap. And that's what we're going to unpack in the next video. And if you want to go deeper into this with me, I'm going to break this down live here on YouTube on Monday. We're going to walk through the harsh math behind why so many online businesses feel so unstable and what actually needs to change if you want your revenue to become predictable. Because once you run the real numbers on most business models, you start seeing very quickly why things feel fragile. And once you see those numbers, a lot of the confusion disappears. So if your business still depends heavily on you showing up every day to keep it moving, you want to be there for that. The live is happening Monday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on my channel. I'll put the link below so you can set the reminder. Because once you understand the structure behind your business, everything about how you grow starts to change.